5 minutes for guests to join us, so we're going to go straight into business, right? My name is Kelechi Uchenna. I'm co-founder and CEO at Nigenius, and with me from the Nigenius team here is Stephen Kolade. Kolade, can you just say a few words? Just say a few words to the team so that they get to know who you are, your role at Nigenius as well.
All right, thank you everybody for dialing in. We appreciate your presence here. My name is Stephen Kolade. I'm the head of digital marketing at Nigenius, and basically we are trying to push the good news and the good value proposition to everybody, right? To know what the value that Nigenius brings to the educational technology sector, Nigeria and the world as a whole. And we are doing some good work here. We have some very good resources, very good network, and I'm happy you joined. And I hope that we all pick a few things from our good speakers that are ready for us here. Thank you very much, sir.
Good, nice one, Kolade. So Kolade, please, you can stop sharing this welcome banner. I want to share my screen and just briefly talk about what we do at Nigenius. So first of all, we have two amazing speakers at this event. I'm going to be introducing them immediately after my keynote. And so I'll do a quick 10-minute keynote about what we do at Nigenius for those who are just joining us and who don't really know much about the brand. Then I'll introduce the speakers of the panel session, right? Then we will kick off straight into the panel. We have some exciting speakers and very, very interesting questions to ask them. And I'm sure they've got some amazing answers for us to learn from. Okay, then that's what's going to happen. One of the speakers is going to join us 15 minutes late, but however, we'll kick off with the first amazing speaker and have a great session. Okay, good. So let me just share my screen briefly. So guys, this is Nigenius. I'm not going to do a conventional presentation. I'm just going to walk you through what we do now and where we're heading to, right? What we do, where we're heading to, and the value that we bring, right? This is our current website. The first thing you see here is lesson planning so easy, it's genius. Why? Because we have a platform that provides teachers with free lesson plans and online teaching resources so that they can create engaging classrooms for their students. Hence, building geniuses in Nigerian classrooms and African classrooms, hence the name Nigerian Genius. So that's the first thing you will see when you get to our website. Just type Nigenius on Google, you'll see the website there and you can access it, right? We also connect the teachers on Nigenius to parents who are looking for home tutors for their kids, right? We connect the parents, the teachers who have signed up to the platform, we onboard them as tutors and we connect them to parents who are looking for home tutors for their kids. So we provide parents with qualified home tutors for their kids, and we also help teachers earn extra income, tutoring learners online or in person, as you can see in the picture, right? This has to do with our platform. We also try to do group online lessons where lots of students will learn online in a single class, right? But that didn't really take off very quickly. They also wanted to do professional training support for teachers, where other teachers will come online and set up classes and train other teachers, wanted to do that as well, but that didn't really take off. So we had to iterate and just pause on those ones. Then you have some testimonials, our media mentions, and you can sign up as a tutor on Nigerian. So as a teacher, if you're looking to earn extra income, give impact, right? Touch students across the world in Nigeria, you can sign up with us as a tutor. However, you also have to be patient with us because the supply of teachers is more than the demand from parents who are working on increasing that demand as well. So even if you sign up with us as a tutor, please be patient. Don't expect that it's going to just happen immediately and we'll get you a parent to tutor their kids. It might take some time, but we make sure that it goes round, right? We make sure that it goes round. Okay, so this is our current website. However, there are some other things that we do at Nigenius. So we are now building a new website, which is going to go live very soon, right? And this is what the new Nigenius website will look like, right? Because aside providing parents with tutors and the teaching resource platform, we also provide schools with STEM tutors for specialized courses like coding and robotics. right? So we are expanding, so which is bring out the genius in your kids, which is through tutoring, bring out the genius in your teaching, through teaching resources and lesson plans, and bring out the genius in your school by embedding STEM tutoring to help your students understand technology better, have more problem-solving skills and critical thinking skills, and even put your school on the map, right? I'm sure most of us have heard about this. Shagam would have built a humanoid robot, right? They were all over the news, right? That gives your school an elevated presence and gives it more value in the market, right? And aside helping schools to embed STEAM curriculums very quickly, right? So this is what our new website is going to look like. It shows you how we're transforming education for teachers, for parents, and for schools. And we have this tab that shows you for home tutors, teaching resources, coding and robotics, right? And we have a school management system that is currently in the works, which will most likely go live early next year, right? Some of the schools worked with some of our media mentors again, and you can sign up as a tutor. We're doing something very interesting with the new website. We are looking at expanding to Africa, but we want to do something bold, right? So as a tutor, you can sign up anywhere right now. We can sign up tutors in America, in Africa, in Ghana, in Cameroon, right? In Cameroon, wherever, as long as we can connect you and a parent and we can establish that business, we will do that. And that's what we're doing. And even parents can make requests for home tutors from anywhere as well. So that is what we plan to do on the new website. Okay, then once you click on the solutions drop down, you'll see the different offerings that we have, right? The teaching resources, the coding and robotics, the tutor signups, and requesting for home tutors as well. And we're also rebuilding our administrator platform so to be able to process requests, onboard tutors seamlessly, get their information, match them with students wherever we are, right? So guys, in a nutshell, that is what Nigenius is about. And why are we having these conversations today? We're having these conversations because for education, you can never do enough, basically, right? We want to engage with professionals across different sectors of education, learn from them, get teachers, parents, students to hear from them as well, and build an ecosystem of learning and of value. And that's why we're having the Edu Webinar X series, right? So you're all welcome to the call, and let's get straight to business. I can see we have some new people on the call. Yeah, we have some new people on the call. So I think we have some new people who just joined us. I can see Florence, I can see Peace Archibong, I can see Chiwe, I can see Ene. You are all welcome. You're all welcome. All right, guys. So that was a brief presentation of what we do in Nigenius, talking about the new Nigenius website, which will go live at the end of this September, all our service offerings, schools we've worked with, and how we plan to be able to onboard tutors across different countries in Africa, and also get parents to request for tutors from different countries in Africa as well. Good. Thank you very much. Okay, Kola, I think you can stop spotlighting me now while I introduce our first speaker. Okay, so I'm going to introduce our first speaker. Her name is Rhoda Odigboh, right? I'd like to welcome her to Edu Webinar X. Rhoda, can you hear me? Can you hear me clearly?
Absolutely.
Yeah. You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you so much. Meanwhile, these two speakers are, aside being exceptional ladies in EdTech, they're also my personal friends. They're people who I've connected with and I've had good conversations and I've got a lot of value from them. Hence the reason I decided to invite them today. So I'm just going to briefly read Rhoda's bio so that we can know a bit about her, but she's going to tell us more. So Rhoda is a learning strategist and a curriculum theorist. She's also the head of Africa programs at Kizazi, right? She was formerly the regional director of academics at New Globe, and she was also a director of academics in Bridge, right? She's also the co-founder of the Learning Craft as well, right? She's currently serving families, communities, governments on whole school transformation programs across Africa. And her mission is to contribute to life-changing education using evidence-based processes towards nation building. There is a lot about Rhoda, but I believe that during the course of the session, we're going to hear from her more. Rhoda, you're welcome again.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome again.
Thank
Great
you.
to
Thank
have
you
you.
so much.
Great to have you.
My
Yes.
pleasure.
Yes.
My
Okay,
pleasure.
so good. Welcome. So to just jump right in, yes, we're going to start with the panel session, which is going to last for a while. If you have any questions, just write them down. During the Q&A, you have the right to ask your questions. Okay, good. So let's start. So Rhoda, if you could describe your education and edtech career so far in one word, what would it be and why? Why do you choose that word?
It's a powerful question to start with, Kelechi.
Yes.
I trust you to go in this direction. First of all, let me quickly say thank you for the invite. I really appreciate being in the presence of educators and anyone who is in the business of supporting children and adults to thrive.
Rhoda, just a second. I can't see your video. I don't know if it's just me. Just a second. Kola, can you hear me? I can't see Rhoda's video. Am I the only one who can see it?
I can see her. I can see her from here.
Oh, you can see her. Okay, it's probably me. It's probably me. Okay. Please go ahead. Rhoda, please go ahead. Sorry for that interruption.
I can see you as well. I can see you, Kelechi. I can see me and I can see you. I think we're both
on Spotlight. We're both on
Spotlight.
Spotlight. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay, Kola,
I was just
Yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah, Kola, remove me from Spotlight. Just Spotlight, only the person speaking. Good. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, so I was just saying thank you for the invite and appreciating the work that you do at Nigenius. Congratulations on all of the efforts that's made. And more importantly, thinking about teachers from, empowering teachers both in their skill set areas and also economically. I think this is the way, this is what teachers often look for when they talk about, when they refer to their motivations and also refer to their welfare as well as, their career pathways. So thank you for showing up in that capacity and, offering all of the services that you do and with your team. So well done on that. To quickly jump into your question about one word. I mean, one word it's tough. But if I were to pick one word in my journey for ed career, I would say empowering. And the reason why I say that is, it kind of connects to what Nigenius does. Right from the get-go, when I started my career in education, I found tech immediately. And the reason why I found it was because I realized that it helped me in a number of areas. One, it helped me to upskill. So I learned new skills. Even if it was just searching through the internet, I learned so much about teaching a topic I was struggling with. So it was through tech that I was able to, know my world and know what was obtainable in other climes. I recall when I was doing my undergraduate studies in early childhood education. And then, I did a couple of courses and I just was curious about what was happening in the other clients around education. And I also continued to search. And as I searched, I found out that there were courses that I didn't take. And I'd completed a 5-year part-time program during that undergrad course. And there were courses I didn't take. So I went in search of those courses. So it was still through technology. I imagine if there wasn't technology, I wouldn't have been able to upskill myself. First of all, be the kind of researcher who finds out new information. It helped me with innovation. So the word empowering encapsulates my experience of innovation, of creativity, of upskilling myself. And of course, also sharing my learnings, because what I did was I started one of the very first education blogs, localized, contextualized education blogs in Nigeria. And it was again technology, because that was the time when we were using Blogger a lot. So it was Blogger, it was free. And I remember telling a lot of educators then that, look, there's a universe where you can know more and be more. And so it's really, the one word is empowering. That's what I would say.
Okay.
And to be honest, it supported income generation as well. So I can't even leave that alone.
Okay. So empowering based on the fact that you were able to gather these skills and also share via platforms like the blogging and stuff, right?
Yes.
Fantastic, fantastic. So what about like career-wise? I've seen that you've done bridge education, you did the other one, and now Kizazi. So what's that journey been like so far? Like, how did you get these opportunities? And tell us just a bit about learning craft.
Yeah. Okay, so this is the journey. The journey was, I started out in it. So I started as an accountant, right?
Yes,
By that, I mean that that's what I studied in university. And you guys all know how, you know, my age group, I'm in my 40s, almost my mid 40s. My age group, then you don't say you want to go and study education in your home. That was just not our, you know, our growing up. It was almost like, come on, you know what the income is, and are you ready for that? But I've always been someone who challenges status quo. And so, which is why even I tell my children, just because someone makes a statement doesn't make it right, even if that person is an expert. Go and search of the evidence and go and find out more. Anyway, so I finished with so I moved from accounting into education, and I went into the classroom. And all my struggles, all my pains, all my successes, I realized were the things that helped me, you know, to continue to do better. So every day when I struggle with a topic or struggle with a child or struggle with a behavior or succeeded at teaching a large, significant percentage of my classroom, what did I do? I realized that was important. So if I used a particular strategy and I said, hey, rather than memorize the timetable, if I sing it, if we sing it, if I get 15 out of 20 children by singing it, rather than 7 out of 20 by memorizing it, then that means there's something about songs and learning. So those are the things that I learned. And then I built all of my skills in the classroom and decided, hey, Rhoda, you can't just be doing this, you know, all the things you're struggling, all the things you're learning, you can't do it alone. You can't do it just from this classroom. How many children will you impact? And how many educators will we have the opportunities to see what you're doing and what you're learning? So from there, I found Blogger. It was free blogging platforms. And then I used it and started sharing all my learnings. And I named it the Learning Craft. Right. And because for me, it was learning and the craft of learning being the pedagogy and the science of learning and teaching. And so that's how the name was born. I started with the blogging and then I set up the consulting organization because as I blogged, a lot more people wanted me to come and teach and professionally train and mentor and guide and things like that. And then from the classroom, while I was in the classroom, I was doing all of that. And then I found while I was doing my master's, I fell in love with curriculum along the journey because, you know, I started a lot of the design and all of that. And I went into master in curriculum. After mastering in curriculum, during my process of mastering curriculum, I was leading a group research in, you know, a group project. And in that project, we're supposed to look for innovation around the world in education. And while I was looking at that, that was when I found Bridge. And I said, wow, goodness, I've been in private education. I've also not been in low resource, under-resourced context in the University of Education as much as I would have liked to. And I thought what they were doing was profound, you know, to provide that level of education, that quality of education at that price. At the price
for those kind of communities.
Exactly. So I went in there and I got the job to become the director of academics. And from there, I moved, spent many years supporting governments, large-scale training, magic training, leading training of myself, Arinza, who is here, he knows about this, 14,000 teachers per state and all of that. And we even started to take it outside of Nigeria, you know, supported our pilot programs in Rwanda, in Liberia, and things like that. And then from there, you know, just naturally grew, you know, I started thinking about the nonprofit space in education because I had crossed all the bars of public and private education, and then paid education systems, and then thought, what about this, you know, nonprofit universe? I really haven't learned enough, you know, and then got the opportunity to start working with Kizazi, and it's been profound, you know, for me, and just continuous growth. That's what I would say.
Amazing. Okay, fantastic, Rhoda. We're going in, we're diving deeper. First of all, guys, I want to welcome our second speaker, Ife Obidi-Essien. She's here, another of my personal person. So, Kola, please bring her to the spotlight. Kola.
Hi, Ife.
Yeah, Ife, hi, how are you?
Hello. Hello,
Yeah,
good morning. Good morning. Yes, good morning, everyone.
Yes,
and I just want to say thank you to the Nigenius team for having me. And I want to acknowledge my big sister here, Rhoda Odigboh. I'm
Yes.
really honored to be sitting on the same panel with you. So you're welcome, everyone, and to every teacher, every school leader that is here, you are welcome, and I'm very honored to be here. If you're Obidi-Essien, am I to introduce myself?
Yes. Oh, if you hold on,
Okay,
slow down. Let me introduce you then.
aka
Now,
the tech
if
savvy
can you hear me?
teacher.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Okay, Kelechi, I can hear you now. What did you say?
Can you hear me? You can hear me, right?
I
Can you hear me? Okay, good,
Yes.
good. You're welcome. You're very, very welcome. Let us welcome you specially. Let's welcome you specially. Then you can now do your thing, right?
Okay.
Okay, good. So guys, we want to introduce the second speaker. Her name is Ife Obidi-Essien, an amazing personality, my personal friend again, just like Rhoda, all right? So I'm just going to tell us a few things about her, then we'll just give her the first question, right? Ife Obidi-Essien is an EdTech consultant, Microsoft Global Training Partner, a Microsoft Certified Educator, T4 Education Speaker, Certiport Authorized Testing Center, and Digital Content Creator. She is the founder and CEO of Tech Savvy Teacher International, TST, and she used to be a project consultant at EduLead Concepts. Ife is an amazing person. She's an EdTech consultant and a Microsoft Global Training Partner, passionate in driving digital transformation in education through technology solutions for educators. I met Ife the first time at the Africa Think Tech Festival, right? And we had a very important conversation, me, her, and Rhoda, and I said, I must work with her. Yes, so, and I must work with her. So this is the first of those journeys, right? If you can hear me very well, can you hear us very well? It seems like you can hear. Rhoda, can you hear me clearly?
Yes,
okay,
I can.
Kelechi, I'm trying to hear you, but it's kind
Caller,
of
can you hear me?
distant. I don't know why.
Caller, can you hear me clearly?
Okay, I can
Caller,
hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you, sir.
But can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you clearly, Ife. Yeah, I was just introducing you.
I heard you.
Okay,
I heard you
good.
introducing me. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. So Ife, let's just go straight in, right? If you could describe your education and your EdTech career so far in one word, what would it be and why? What would it
I
be
think
and why?
I would use the word lifelong learning, right? Lifelong learning, because every journey has been, a teachable one for me. Every journey along the way, every evolution, I believe when I started Tech Savvy Teacher International 6 years ago, I was at a level and I started getting to meet a lot of school leaders, a lot of teachers. I started impacting in their lives and I started learning as well, and we started offering even better services, because our mantra at Tech Savvy Teacher International is the upgraded version. And the only way you can become the upgraded version is when you add to your existing knowledge, is when you learn. So I would call it lifelong learning because as a teacher, by profession, you must be a lifelong learner. So I would say lifelong learning has been a part and parcel of my educational journey. And I would say that even as a professional teacher, it's always been like, learning every day, learning something new every day. I hope I answered your question. Thank you.
Beautifully. So if I'm correct, you and Rhoda were once teachers, like classroom teachers, basically. Fantastic. So that is another important thing because it doesn't end in the classroom, right? As a teacher, there's a lot of other things you can do and grow in specifically, right? Fantastic. I like it. Lifelong learning.
Teaching. I'm still teaching.
Yeah.
I'm still volunteer teaching.
Exactly. Right. So it's a continuous thing. It's a continuous thing. So yours is lifelong learning and Rhoda's is empowering and empowerment. Fantastic. Two very interesting words. I think I'll keep my own till later, but I'd like to talk about my own briefly. So let's go on. Question number 2, which is going to come back to you, Rhoda. Focusing on examination pass rates now, right? NECO had a 60% pass rate in 2022. If you can hear me, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but it's not as clear as it should be.
Wow, that's strange. That's strange. Rhoda, you can hear me
I'm
clearly,
actually
right?
straining to hear you.
Rhoda, can
I
you
can
hear
hear
me?
you. I can hear you. Ify, can you hear me?
Yes, Rhoda, I can hear you, but you know,
Wow.
it's fine. It's fine. I'll try.
Okay. What I'll do is that I'll drop the question on the chat as well. Let me drop the question on the chat. I think that's what I should do.
Beautiful.
Let me drop the question on the chat. I'll read it out for people that can hear me, and I'll drop the question on the chat. Nothing can stop us on this. Nothing can stop us.
Nothing
at all. No tech issues will stop us. Let me just pop up that question. Just a second. Okay, I'm dropping it on the chat for you, Ify. Yes, so focusing on examination pass rates. NECO had a 60% pass rate in 2022. WAEC exams recently 2023 had an 80% pass rate. Looking at these statistics, would you say that there has been an improvement in the love for learning by the Nigerian students? And if you say yes, why? Why do you say so?
Hey, this is a sensitive one. Kelechi,
Yes.
this is a sensitive one because in as much as I do not want to attack the Nigerian education system, which has gone through its level of evolution to an extent, I would like to say that when you talk about love, so for example, if you say, I love rice, right? I really eat it because I love it. But if you say, oh, do I love certain foods that I just need to eat because it is there, then it's, there are two different things. So our children need to pass their exams, right?
Yes.
So they need to read, they need to cram, they need to do all what they need to go through a rigid system, right? And just for the aim of passing a milestone in education. So I need to pass my NECO so that I can advance to higher institution. That might be the reason for the passing rate. That might be the motivation. But when you're talking about love, it's a different ball game altogether.
Yes.
It's a different ball game because I remember taking teachers through a program called the Microsoft Certified Educator Program. And they said, this is beautiful, but, coming from the system where children need to go through this, the curriculum so that they can pass WAEC and NECO, how can we imbibe this, 21st century methodology? It's so different from our curriculum because we need to get them to pass WAEC, we need to get them to pass NECO. So when you are talking about, the African teacher or the Nigerian teacher designing her curriculum, to embed the 21st century skills, to embed future-ready skills that will now create the love for learning, it's a different ball game. So I would not actually say no or yes, but I would say that I do not think, in my own opinion and experience, that our curriculum is fashioned to get the love or create the love for learning. Why? Because there is an unconscious programming to attain a milestone before learning can take place. So I have to see that, look, I have to pass WAEC. So because I have to pass WAEC, I have to follow a rigid system. And it breaks my heart because my passion for learning is that learning should first take place, before milestone attainment. But the reverse is the case in our educational system. So even though our students pass their exams, it does not necessarily translate to a love for learning. And that's a sorry side.
It facilitates lifelong learning.
Yeah, it doesn't translate. I need to understand that. So for example, my baby just started schooling, and when you say, oh, a child should be able to learn how to count from 1 to 100, it's a milestone you are giving the child. But do I understand numbers? Do I love numbers? Do I understand how to quantify numbers? Do I really like the experience? It's a different ball game. So I believe my response should tell you what the real thing is.
The message is communicated. So Rhoda, just before we hear from you, I just want to just mention something before you give us your answer to that. You know, I consult for a school in Port Harcourt, right? I consult for a school in Port Harcourt, secondary school, primary school, and I noticed that I'm talking with the admin, the VP admin, and I'm talking with the teachers, and they say these students are not ready. SST, they're not ready to read. They're not ready to read, and I'm like, but you as a teacher, you should make these kids want to learn, want to read. There are ways of working with them to make them want to read. I say, no, these students these days, they're not just ready to read, they're not ready to learn. You call them for class, they're running away. You call them for this, they're not coming for class. Like, what is going on, right? So Rhoda, so from on your own take, is that love for learning? Like, are our students interested in learning, right? And just basically rephrasing the question, what do you think? What's your take on this matter? What's your take on this matter, Rhoda? Yeah.
Kelechi, to be honest, I'm very happy that Nigenius has taken this headline of lifelong learning and made it the very maiden edition of your Webinar X. Yes. Because this is a journey. This is where we want to be. Let me say that lifelong learning as a skill is non-negotiable because it is the exact skill, I would say, number one skill required to navigate through life. If you are thinking about relationships or work ethic or business strategies or whatever else you need, it is a default lifelong learning skills that separates the good from the great or the bad from the worst. And the different categories that we're seeing. So I'm happy that you are trying to correlate this, let's call it increase, this unprecedented result that we have in 2023, which we can unpack, because we can unpack that data and start to see the different smoke screens in there. No need for that. Ife has done a good job tackling the idea of lifelong learning versus achieving a milestone. So just imagine, so this is my default main takeout of it is, I wouldn't say that there's a correlation. I would agree. And that is because those of us who work in grassroots education like myself, we know, and you even Kelechi consulting for the school, if you're working with teachers, that loop, we see it that there isn't necessarily a lifelong. So if you are looking for the pillars of lifelong learning, you will see people things like a drive, the general student drive to research is one of the indicators to be looking out for. You'll be seeing an effort by the school community to bring the students together to take charge of their own learning. So you'll be seeing various things that happen, but what we're seeing is different. You know, we're seeing that from data, what data, and so, and another thing that I would, hopefully that this webinar does and, you know, takes out to the public is for us to begin to have good data from our examinations. Look, we only see pass or fail. It is not narrow. It's so narrow. We don't see all of that. If in countries like Kenya, Tanzania, and East Africa, in South Africa, when they declare their national results, they will tell you girl versus boy. They will tell you regional versus regional. They will tell you the various groups of the bands of scores. So who are those that belong to the 80%? Who are those that belong to 70%? And this, so we know what to target with the next benchmarks to target. When I looked at the data, and this is what I'll end with, right under it, you could see that the northern part of Nigeria is still struggling a lot, and we have to deal with that. We have to make sure that something is done significantly to change the performance rates of those children. So 80% is just for me, and we all know this thing about, you know, Expo and special centers and all these, you know, we know this. We just don't want to talk about them. We know them. We know that this is not always the case. You know, integrity is on play here. But yes, I'm 100%, you know, in line with what in agreement with Ife that there is no correlation. That's my own view from this results to the concept of love for learning. and the increase. And maybe this is a data area that maybe Irene's there and folks who are in policy research, can begin to look at, like, do we want to answer this question? What do we want to search to see how we can drive the love for learning?
Yeah.
Our kids just want to attain the exams to get into another school. Then the next stage of their life.
So that's a powerful one, guys. So I kind of agree. I agree, because a love for learning is separate from just basically hitting those learning milestones, right? Now, let me give an example. For example, right, there's something I did I think I started maybe 2-3 years ago. I give myself every year to learn a new skill, right? Like 2 years ago, I learned content marketing. The other time I learned how to grow your startup without VC. I'm thinking of doing something in education to improve my education skills this year. I'm thinking about an MBA in education technology, right? But I give myself that thing to learn, because I understand that learning is growing, right? I even read books, even novels, different books, authors. So aside wanting to hit the normal discipline, get the A's and B's, that ability to learn a new skill is very important. And I believe in teachers especially should be able to embed those in their students. And it's a very, very important thing. And we're diving deeper into the concept. But thank you so much for those guys. Okay, so Rhoda, going back to you now, before we now cross back to Ify again, right? From your experience, what are the key strategies or methods that teachers can implement inside and outside the classroom to build enthusiasm and a love for learning from a young age? What are the key strategies or methods that teachers can implement inside and outside the classroom to build enthusiasm and a love for learning from an early age? What are your
you should be teaching. You should be teaching. You know why? Because your questions, you have a beautiful way of crafting questions, and inquiry and questioning is an excellent way to teach. If you know how to position a question, you help the students or whoever is a listener, the recipient of the learning, to generate the kind of response you want, and see how you are trying to get us to say, what is it that's going to build learning, lifelong learning? Inside and outside, the two key words.
Inside and outside the classroom, yes.
Inside and outside the classroom. There's something I read a number of years ago, and it has stayed with me. And of course, in itself, it has its own, under it has a lot of strategies, that follow it and all of that. We say compassion before curriculum. There's a reason why. We say relationships before rigor. There's a reason why. We say grace before grades. There's a reason why. And we say technology as an enabler. There's a reason why. And we say reading, or readers are leaders. Reading as a friend. There's a reason why. You see these 5 components of things? We will not have enough time to unpack each one of them. But compassion and care is the exact reason why children will build, or students across tertiary down, will continue to be intrinsically motivated to learn and to build that lifelong learning skill. So you want to be able to show compassion in your classroom, show that you connect and understand the different people in your classroom to be able to meet their needs. That's key. Relationships count. You must have heard the famous phrase from our, God bless her soul, she's now late, with her FPSN. She said, and she quoted George Carver, he says, all learning is relationships. Students don't learn from people they don't like. They just...
All learning is relationships.
All learning.
Do you hear that? All learning
is relationships.
Yeah.
And when I will say, I'll talk about the strategy of grading, because we're a very assessment drunken nation. Meanwhile, there's assessment for learning and there's that assessment of learning. We're heavily tilted towards a strategy for assessment of learning. Do this content, I test you, rather than assessment for learning, which is more formative and targets helping to build skills where there are gaps, targets closing of gaps. That every time when I call it the CIA. The CIA of learning is curriculum, instruction, and assessment, right? You look at your curriculum, you want to make sure that the curriculum is well designed, but even before that, you want to bring compassion into that curriculum. In your instruction, you want to also make sure that there are relationships that helps to enable that. Let me tell you, there's no curriculum. What we're learning in Nigeria and in Africa is not necessarily different from topic-wise, content-wise, not necessarily different from any part of this world. Please bring it up. Every part of the world, everybody's learning about the same thing. It is the methodology, the pedagogy, the science behind it that is the game changer. So the strategies have to be things that connect students with the relationship, that are learner-centered. By learner-centered, it's not always there are different arguments to learner-driven, not the sage on the stage, but the guide on the side, for sure. We still want the teacher to be the facilitator of learning. It's very critical that the teacher is there. The teacher as and also driving that technology, which helps to enable all of that learning. We now need to connect learning to the real world, the connect classroom to we make that classroom to real world connection. So there's a lot to say about it. But I say, let there be compassion as you're going through that curriculum design, thinking about the needs of the people. It needs to be contextual. Let the relationships be sound, because all learning is relationships. While you're thinking about grading students, think about grades, because you want students to give them enough time to see that, to unpack what they have not learned. You know, one thing that has been our experience is, I'll give you a test, every time you say, you guys are ready for the test, but we don't do what's called a pre-test. A pre-test lets you to know where the students, how ready, the readiness quotient of the students for that assessment. But we don't do that. We feel like we're giving them expo. No, it's not expo. It's you understanding the targets that you have set for the students, so that you're understanding that you know whether they're ready for that assessment. So there's so many technical strategies we could use, but I'll just leave us with this one. And the culture of reading, which we have been talking about.
Very important.
So much. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Rhoda. Thank you so much for that. I especially like the first things you said about relationships before reading, compassion before the curriculum, but basically building a connection with your students. First of all, even before the nitty-gritty of the ones and the twos and the eights and the B's. All right, if you please, let's hear from you as a tech-savvy teacher. Like, how do you build that?
Okay. Wow. Thank you so much. Yeah. Rhoda has said it all, like relationship before teaching. Relationship is the bedrock of even that acceptance or buy-in. So as a tech-savvy teacher, you need to get the buy-in of your students, the buy-in of your parents, the buy-in of every stakeholder for learning to take place effectively. So it's very important for there to be an established relationship. Thank you so much, Rhoda, for that. Now, when we get now into, there is something I call generational gaps and a generational collision. So I step into a classroom and I see two generations in that classroom that are approaching teaching and learning differently. And until one generation step into the shoes of the other generation, nothing can happen. Nothing but conflict will happen. Okay? So I step into this classroom and I see a millennial teaching a generation Z or a generation Alpha. And because these two sets of people are from different generations, learn differently, have different approach to learning, there is always a clash unless there is an intentionality. So a lot of times when I talk of these generations, it looks like, okay, what is she saying? Now, times are changing. There is an evolution going on. The way my child is learning now, the way my child is wired to learn is so different from the way I am wired to learn. And that is why until I step into the generation of these little ones, I will not be able to do so much. I will just be able, I will just be communicating from my paradigm, which so often than not is so different from the way they learn. So before you even say, okay, what is that tech skill? Oh, what is that 21st century method, methodology? Before I can even start coming from that angle, I have to understand who is that learner? How do they learn? What is their default system of learning? How is their learning different from my learning? I don't know that you are hearing me. Kelechi, are you there?
Loud and clear, loud and clear. If you loud and clear.
Yes.
When the room is silent
great.
like this, you know that
thank you, Rhoda. I can hear you. So there has to be an understanding that, look, these generations are different in their approach. While every generation is unique, but there is an impact on the learning paradigms, right? A generation alpha is very digitally inclined. So while a millennial teacher is saying, look, I need you to hold that pen. I need you to hold that pencil. A generation alpha is saying, no, come on, you are still in the old system. I am wired differently. I am wired differently. So what am I saying here? If I, as a millennial, is able to say, okay, a generation alpha or a generation Z, I understand where you are coming from. So I am ready to come and meet you midway. That is where the real transformation will take place. Then when that understanding has been established, we can now say, okay, so based on your paradigm, based on your context, I am able to infuse approaches that would help you learn better. Okay? So that's where you now say, okay, so in your day and age, what are the future-ready skills? What are the career pathways that I, as a teacher, should prepare you for? So that when you leave the confines of my classroom, you would leave prepared. You would leave grateful that I was your teacher in the first place. So what am I saying? In this generation, you would agree with me that the career path that existed in this generation and 5 years ago were so different from what is going on now. So you hear artificial intelligence, you hear cybersecurity, you hear the IT engineer. But 5 to 10 years ago, these career pathways were not in existence. So how am I, as a millennial, creating that space, that mental space in my mind to say, okay, I am able to open up my mind to these new opportunities for my students? Because until you as a teacher is able to open up and be flexible to the changes obtainable in this generation, you will not be able to give room for your children and your students to thrive. You will not be able to give those opportunities in the classroom context, right? You will not even be able to explore different approaches for my students to learn in a different way. You will not be able to break the barriers that are existing, that have been in existence, so that new approaches, can be allowed and be permitted. So when I say 21st century learner, how is this learner able to, learn more impactfully in my classroom? So what are the skills that are relevant to this day and age? Skills like collaboration, skills like skilled communication, skills like ICT. How am I using technology as an enabler? How am I using technology to help the generation Z and Alpha learn effectively? How is my child ready to step into the world, the real life, situations? So what am I saying? So within the classroom context, can project-based approaches be created in such a way that children are able to deepen learning and not necessarily regurgitating knowledge?
Good.
So by regurgitating knowledge is a teacher coming to the classroom to just give notes on end, to give repetitive, concepts and not relating what they are teaching to this day and age. So until the teacher is able to say, okay, we are learning photosynthesis, for instance, how is that relatable right now in this century, in this day and age? And how can my children or students impact on this topic? How can they meaningfully, be contributors? How can they solve the real world problems that exist in our day and age? So until these questions are asked, until these approaches are used in our, classroom context, we will still be operating traditionally. Now,
Fantastic.
talking about taking instruction or taking learning outside the four walls of the classroom, you are now coming to learning automation. What do I mean by learning automation? How is the child in your classroom being able to control instruction? How is your learner able to control the way he or she learns? Is learning still restricted to the four walls of the classroom? Or is the learner or learning process extended beyond the four walls of the classroom? So when I say learning automation, the teacher is able to give control to the student. The teacher is able to say, look, you are no more restricted. You can determine when and how you learn. That is where the real transformation takes place. Because I believe that is the default wiring of this present generation. They do not want to be held back in any way. They want to leverage social media. They want to leverage technology tools. So that is how the teachers can now start, ensuring that the child has no barrier of entry in terms of the tools, in terms of the systems in place. So when I say tools, how are you using technology? Video creation tools, learning management systems, virtual learning environments, Teams, Google Classroom, Edmodo. How are you using those virtual learning environments to facilitate communication, real world problem solving, collaboration in the classroom?
Fantastic. Ify, let me cool you down with cold water first. You're getting so hot. You're getting so hot. This is like a master class, but fantastic. I'm sure the audience have been blown away, right? See, guys, if you're in education, if you're in learning, if you're in teaching, you need to go in depth. You can see that these speakers are talking about these things from research and years of experience, and even going beyond their borders of learning. They've gone extra miles. And that's why I'm learning too, and I'm picking up. And I hope that our teachers out there are also picking up some key things, right? If we need to plan a master class or do something, we need to do something based on what all the bars that you've been dropping here. But let's move on. But thank you so much for that, Ify. Thank you so much for that. Now, this is a very interesting one. We are going away from all the 21st century and all the pedagogies, and we're going into something much more interesting now that I personally, as a parent, have come across in schools and even with my own kids, right? Now, Rhoda, this is for you first. Based on your opinion, does our Nigerian curriculum and scheme place too much pressure on students in their early years compared to the approach of countries like Finland, where they have a play-based approach of learning till the age of 6, 7? If yes or no, what are your reasons? And before I do, Adrola, let me give an example, right? So my son is in nursery, right? He was in nursery. He's going into grade 1 now, right? And when he was in nursery, I remember that they'll give some tasks, like some mathematical tasks, some English questions. I'm like, but my wife, I'll be like, okay. So the teachers are complaining that his other classmates are doing this already, but he's not doing it. So me, I'll be worried, like, why is my son not doing this? But my wife, on the other hand, is like, why are they giving a 4-year-old this kind of task at this age, right? Like, learning early years is all about learning through play. Like so basically in layman's terms, are we too forward in the Nigerian curriculum system? Is it good for us? Is it bad? What is actually going on? So just to rephrase it again, does our scheme and our curriculum place too much pressure on students in their early years compared to the approach of countries like Finland, where they have a play-based approach to like 6 or 7? I heard in Finland, like from 6 and 7, that's when they start even writing, doing calculations, and all those other things. So please, can you tell us some more, please? Rhoda,
This is yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, clearly, loud and clear.
Yes, yes.
Great. This particular question is right up in my alley, because this is what I've done for pretty much almost all my life, working in curriculum. And there are various perspectives to it. So I'll make sure that I put it in a very sharp shooting way. To answer the question directly, I would say no. And the reason why I said no is this.
That's no, it's not putting pressure on students.
No, it's not.
It's not.
Yes, and I will give you the perspective why I say no. And when I'm going to say yes, I'll tell you why yes. So let me start with the no is, I will use your reference. You referenced your son. Let me tell you, a lot of what is happening in the private schools is not what is in the Nigerian curriculum. I'll tell you that. They've gone beyond and above that.
Okay.
What is happening.
True.
The Nigerian curriculum does not typify that level of benchmark or targets for our early childhood education. Everybody here should go and find and purchase the Nigerian nursery curriculum. It doesn't have those benchmarks. It doesn't have those milestones. It's not there. Of course, it won't be there because the National Education Research Development Commission that designs our curriculum know better not to do that. So what you see in our curriculum, which I'll be honest with you, I do not consider it a curriculum, and that's my own opinion. It's at best a scheme of work. I still hold on to that.
Okay, is that from us, Kolade? Is it me or is it Rhoda's network?
Yeah, I think it's a connection.
Yeah, it's
I can hear you.
Okay. So I think if it has been a pause on Rhoda's side, if you just go ahead. Then when Rhoda comes back, she'll just back in. Yeah. Let's just hear your own thoughts on that. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think Rhoda is the expert here. She's very vast in curriculum, but like she said, yes, our Nigerian curriculum does not have that benchmarking. I believe that every private school in Nigeria, most of the private schools kind of adopt either the British, the American, and different curriculums, So what they have or what they do is a combination. It's a combination of different curriculums that has been adopted to see that, let's ensure that when my child goes to the UK, my child can compete favorably in UK. So I don't think that is the Nigerian curriculum. No. So I think probably our school systems should be able to determine what is right and fit, for children, and probably adapt the play method from the Finland, curriculum. And I think a lot of our leaders should probably go there for tours, to see, how are you guys doing it? How are you guys, leveraging on play to see that children learn regardless of stringent, milestones at that level. So I would not say that what you see in your son's assignment is a Nigerian milestone. No, it's a combination of different countries put together. Yeah.
Okay, good. Rhoda, please go ahead, Rhoda. You stopped.
Okay, she's back. Great.
Yeah, she's back. Yeah.
Yeah,
Rhoda, can you hear me?
Yeah, apologies about that. Yes.
No problem.
Yes, I can hear you. You know, so I said it's a no because Nigerian curriculum does not stipulate those objectives in there for early childhood education, at least, at the very least. It doesn't do that. Just piggyback on what Ife had just said, a lot of people are doing what is called integration, you know, so they're bringing in all kinds of curriculum around the world, which is not a bad thing in essence. And another thing they're doing is that they're teaching a grade higher, which I guess, unfortunately, a lot of parents like to see, because we've taken some data and we've asked parents, what do you want to see? And many parents are happy with their children doing advanced or at one grade level higher content. And it is actually very wrong, because what we know about from neuroscience about the way our brain develops does not support that kind of learning. However, because we have built ourselves to this degree for a long time, a lot of Nigerians have taken that kind of learning and it's become a part of us, right? It has become a part of us. And we're beginning to learn that culture of fast-paced learning and all of that. Is it doing us good? Well, look around your neighborhood and see whether you can answer that question for yourself. Are your systems functioning? Are the people who are leading you functioning? Are your neighbors doing the right thing? Are the children? Just look around you. You should be able to answer your question. There's no need for me to, because, you know, we always do it as if, we always say, you know, Nigerians are this, Nigerians are that, Nigerians are, well, here is home. And hopefully your home has helped you to, you know, grow your economy the way you want it to be. Today, dollar is 900 and something, almost gets into 1,000. Let's leave that conversation. These are the things. So when you see economies that are thriving, their education systems have always supported their policies, their systems, and basically policy and systems and processes, including their practices. I imagine a quality assurance, a national quality assurance scheme that ensures that there is an optimized, you know, or automated way of tracking schools that are not keeping to the framework, the curriculum framework as stipulated by the country. Nobody says you should not integrate, but how can you integrate at the level that is above the students? And that's something that we're currently frowning at in education, because there's something that happened. The students plateau at some point. And no one really talks about the mental strain. Nobody talks about the depression that comes through it. Do we know that actually we have young children that are depressed, children under age? We're learning that even more. So, but it's even not that, it's the rigor. What is the rigor? So because anything can be learned in rigor. I can teach you 1 to 10 and you are a master of those numbers. And you are far better than anybody who knows 1 to 100. Just by it. I've been in classrooms where the children are telling you, are reciting 1 to 100. You call one student, go and point at 72. They can't.
Wow.
You ask them, what makes up 72? What is the place value for 72? They cannot. You know, so yeah, I do agree that there's many situations where this is happening, but it's not according to the Nigerian curriculum. That's what I was saying.
Yes. Okay, so it's not entirely bad, it's not entirely good, but it's not basically being done the right way. You understand? It's basically not being done the right way. Okay, so now that takes us to the next question, right? Let's just quickly run through them so we can, I know we have a lot of questions from the audience. Guys, please keep your questions. We're going to go into QA so you can ask your questions to these amazing ladies, right? So let's just go into the second one. Let's start with you, Rhoda, then we'll now fall back to Ife. We see a lot of Nigerian parents in the diaspora, and I think these two questions are kind of related. We see a lot of Nigerian parents in the diaspora still want their kids to be tutored online by teachers back home here in Nigeria, especially Nigenius tutors, right? From your opinion, does this mean that our curriculum as it is acceptable to some setting standards, hence this trend, right? And what are your thoughts on the reason for this trend? So we have parents in America, in the UK, in Canada, their kids are in school there. They still want the Nigerian teacher here to be teaching their kids, right? So does it mean that our teachers here were doing something right in terms of the way we teach in our curriculum? And what are your thoughts on the reason for this trend? Yeah, what are your thoughts?
I have many personal stories with what you just shared. And I've asked those personal parents, friends, and friends of friends who have made this choice. And I know what they're looking for. At least from my own small pilot group of focus group. Let me put it that way. Let me announce that we're not doing badly as Nigerians. Let me announce that our context will always be ours and should remain so. Just because foreigners do it a certain way doesn't make theirs the best. I can tell you what I've heard from my focus groups. In my focus groups, parents are saying, you know what, they're just too soft on this child. They are teaching it in 4 ways. I beg, I need the hard way, the way we learned. It is that way that we learned that made us to succeed in this country. You know, it's helped us to build our rigor, our discipline, and our all, you know, etc., etc. And to be honest, I'll share a personal story. I have a nephew whom, you know, is on the spectrum. And when he was, the first time he stepped his foot into a school in, you know, and I'm talking about in another part of the world, he was poorly treated. And it was so bad that at some point there is, you know, they put him in the bathroom and said that he was being violent. Please, I don't know where a 4-year-old can be violent. Somebody should help me say that, because sometimes these statements are really funny. Of course, in this situation, you will find that it would even happen in Nigeria. In many of the schools I know, that could never happen. That could never happen. So there is good here. There's good about what is being attracted. It's about discipline sometimes, and it is right. You know, it can be right in itself. It's just a balance for it. It's about discipline. It's about rigor. You know, and it's also about, you know, still that whole discipline. It's also about context. A lot of Nigerians want their children to know about their country. They want to know that there is something else, you know, that you are not missing out of. They want they want them to be really well-rounded. And that's why you see that demand from them. Having said that, is also it can be a misconception that these children, they're babying them too much, or that I'm not getting the right behavior from them. Meanwhile, no, what they're doing there is actually just to walk around your child to see how best they can bring out those innate skills. The thing that we have here is that so this is what I'll end with. If you look at the biology WIEC curriculum, and you look at biology IGCSE, that is of the United Kingdom, Cambridge, the pathways are clear. With the WIEC, maximum you can be, for the most part of the known ones we know, doctor. It's really teaching you in that pathway. But you pick IGCSE, there's so many pathways. When you look at the questions that's being asked in those assessments, you can find a biologist, you can find a neurobiologist, you can find a biotech person, you can find a radiologist, you can find, there's so many questions you know, so you see how the curriculum is designed to generate multiple career pathways.
Yes.
And so sometimes there is that, and that is what this foreign curriculum tries to do. It tries to find many opportunities for children to find themselves, their innate skills in there. And to a large degree, a lot of our parents feel like that is slow. And that is why. That demand will continue to come, because they still want, we are still wearing that our traditional hat of this is the way we've done it. This is how we should continue to do it. And it's not always right.
Fantastic. Fantastic. I think you've made it clear. Ify, please just shed some light for us. Shed some light for us on this topic. If we want to hear from you, what are your thoughts? Why this trend? Are we doing something right? Why do you think this trend exists? Why do these parents still want their kids in Canada, in UK, still to be taught by Nigerian teachers back home here in Nigeria? Why do you think this trend?
Oh, okay, so just like Rhoda has said, our Nigerian system, one thing I would still value and respect is the African value system. So you take your child to a developed country, you take your child there because you want certain opportunities in terms of amenities, in terms of you know, career opportunities. When it comes to the, you know, the culture and the value system, especially when you are from a Christian background, you will see that lost in the process. you see that lost in the process, and it's worrisome. It's worrisome, especially even during the Japa syndrome, where a lot of parents were, are taking their children out. They are not necessarily taking their children out because, they do not want their children to learn in Nigeria, but just because of the need and craving, to expose their children to opportunities, in life. And that was why I was talking to a school owner. I was talking to her when she complained that a lot of parents have left her school. And I told her that this is not a problem. This is not a challenge. It's actually an opportunity. Why? Because parents in diaspora still want an African touch, okay? Still want an African touch. And why do they want it? Because in Africa, at least, we still are not so open with gay. I'm not sure the gay tradition is so open and loose here. The whole thing about children not really confident about their sexuality and all of that. We don't have that here. If you are a girl, you have to be a girl. If you are a boy, look, you just have to be a boy, or else your father will knock it out of your head.
Hoha. We call you hoha.
That is the Nigerian system, and we are still very, very proud of that.
Yes.
So it's very important that we understand this trend, not just understanding this trend, but we leverage this trend despite what is going on. Because if you are able to leverage this trend as school owners, you would be creating educational products, right, that can be used by children in diaspora, that can be used even when they leave. And that is why my company is very big on ensuring that, that learning management systems are applicable and used in the school system, so that a child in UK can still be learning from a school in Nigeria. So this is even more than, this is something we need to be intentional about, so that we can still save and preserve the value system that our children left this country with. So there's still a need for that culture, African culture, to be preserved. Trust me, no matter how far you want to go, the Nigerian system and culture, of purity, of respect, of sanctity, of understanding who you are, understanding your foundation, is still, needed and should still be preserved in our educational system. I'm grateful for the virtual learning environments that are applicable in our school system. This should be harnessed and leveraged to the very best, to see that our value is still maintained and preserved even in diaspora. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Can I just quickly add that I saw data recently, yesterday, I think it was yesterday, and it was talking about what parents want, what the parents want out of school. And it's a global data. And in that data, it asks various questions, but I'm only going to hold on to discipline, the concept of discipline. And in the United Kingdom, less parents, very few parents care about their children being disciplined. That's less of what they care about. Meanwhile, Nigeria was on the highest score for rating for discipline was Nigeria, out of how many countries? Almost like 40-something countries, representing the global South and global North. So again, context is the reason. Context is the reason why parents want it. And then Benita mentioned something very important. It is cheaper.
Yes.
It is cheaper for tutoring. So rather than paying, if your child needs tutoring, and coming back to Nigenius, if your child needs tutoring, you're going to pay through your nose.
Over there.
Over there. That's exactly what's going to happen. So it's cheaper to do it in Nigeria.
Okay, fantastic one. So I think at this point, I think there's one last question, but I want to use that as your final, give away to the teachers, especially the teachers online here. So now let's take questions, right? Let's take questions from the crowd. Then we'll take the final notes from the speakers. We're going to have a networking session here too. We're going to go into breakout sessions, meet each other 5522, just exchange, talk about what you do, get numbers, connect, because it's very, very important. You know, you never know the buildings that you can bridge, the bridges you can build, you know, from forums and conversations like this. So guys, please, if you have any question, just raise up your hand. The speakers are here and they will answer your questions. Please speak out. The only stupid question is the one that was never asked, right? So please, any questions, guys? I'm looking at the chat feed if I can see any particular one. And caller, please, there's this this quote from Rhoda: care and compassion, grace before grades. Please capture that quote. Capture that quote very well. Guys, questions? Questions? Anyone have a question?
Yeah, there's a I dropped my question in the chat already, but I can read it out.
Yeah, please read it out. Go ahead, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
So, good job. I mean, I'm so excited to be here. I've learned a lot, and I'm also happy to connect with people here. So I like to think about equity and inclusion, you know, when we're talking about the love for learning, you know, love for learning. So I somehow, maybe I feel like the conversation has majorly reminded me of private schools. So I'm beginning to think about, what about the public school? So that's why I asked that question, that irrespective of school ownership in Nigeria, how do we, you know, nurture this love for learning, you know, so that parents can say, okay, I know my child is going to school and my child really loves to go to school. My child really loves to learn, irrespective of the kind of school he or she is. Yeah.
So okay, Rhoda, if he wants to go for that question.
Yeah, I love the question. I think Arinze is asking the right, because private education and public education are a whole bunch of, they're really different. Even though there is buckets of private education that mirrors the experience of in the public education. So we do have the significant percentage of private schools in Lagos that kind of like tell us the same thing about what's happening in public schools. But to a large degree, the whole country, if you're thinking about Nigeria as a country, the conversation should be public education driven, because that's where all of our children are learning. And Rita's question about equity and inclusion and thinking through, you know, how do we do this? How do we ensure, whether you're public school or you're private education or public education, how do we do this? It has a lot to do with the correct design of our curriculum and our curriculum experiences. It does have a lot to do with that. It has a lot to do with the professional development, mentoring and coaching to be given to the teachers to use that new or innovative curriculum. And it has a lot to do with the funding of the resources required to do both. You know, to say, I know what to do, and now have a renewed, innovative, you know, interest-based, project-based, inquiry-based, you know, curriculum that I can use. But I then know what to do by training. I know what to do by the support required from coaching, teacher coaching. I know what it also, and I know that if I need certain resources, I have the funding to get that to happen. Look, the day we are ready and about education in our continent and in Nigeria, we will know, because there, you know, honest investments will drive the kind of change. Till tomorrow, whether we like it or not, across the country, we don't have the number of teachers we need. Let's not even, we can paint a gloomy picture here. And the truth is that we don't have the right number of teachers, and we don't have the quality of teachers, and we don't have the right number of tools and resources to support those teachers to do all of those things. That's just grounding us in what the real problem we have in education is. Because those of us who work in grassroots know. Having said that, where we find inspirational teachers, where we find people and we want to say, you know what, with the very little thing you have to do 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 things. Number one, I had mentioned it before, you have to make sure that you make students relationships count. But I'm going to go from that away from that. one of the things I implemented and I've often mentored teachers to do, and I've seen some teachers succeed at those, and where I have not even mentored, I have seen in teachers who have done great job in Nasarawa State, in Niger State, in really under-resourced context, Kelechi. What you see is that teachers actually give the students a lot of control over what they are learning. So there's participation, student participation. There's a lot of control that the students get. And even no matter how young, you see them taking part and taking ownership of their learning. So you see a lot of teachers making their students to do group work, making their students to brainstorm with each other, making them come up with the ideas that they need to go. Then one thing, when I talk about relationship, one of the key elements of that is, how do you make sure that students believe in their own abilities? The child safeguarding, systems in our schools is one thing that needs to shift. So for students to drive that love of learning, you have to make the learning itself a lovable thing, that there's the belief in their own abilities that I can do. So if you do a lot of affirmations in your classroom, for example, simple 5 minutes start of day and end of the day affirmations, so then keep with it. Simple classroom agreements that are positive inclined, not do this, but do this. Things that help students to believe in their own abilities is very, very important. And Kelechi, you are doing one already, which helps. Yeah. The art of questioning, not telling. We're telling children too much. It's a lot. You keep telling them. You are not the citadel of knowledge. You're not the sage on the stage. You are a guide on the side and a facilitator of learning. And that is how to transform and build lifelong learners. You need to use the art of questioning. It's a science that is proven to help students to own learning. So they learn, you ask, and then they give you the answer. They don't have the answer, you tell them to come back the next day to give you the answer. And believe me, that's how you make students readers and researchers. And that's what breeds lifelong learning. And then, of course, making fun a priority. Learning has to be fun that students look forward to. So I'll end with this also. My daughter could not make it to her student she was trying to get to become a student representative council member. She got 4 votes out of her classroom. She knew it was not going to be enough for her. But the teacher had told her that, I believe in you. Do you know what? It is not only, you can't only show leadership in SARC. You can show leadership in your co-curricular. Do you want to be a president in your co-curricular class? And she thought about it. Oh, wow. She didn't even know that. She thought it was just only this. But it was a teacher motivation. And now she's trying to compete to become the president of one of her co-curricular activities. And she has chosen a vice president. But I'm saying I didn't do it. It was the teacher who did it. And the multiple opportunities for students to express leadership. These are the things that make them to think of school as a destination for growth, for learning, school as a destination for building themselves, for establishing the right relationships, establishing, building the right skills, finding themselves. School becomes that place.
It becomes interesting.
When does school
becomes interesting?
Where students are interested, yes, that's it. That would be.
It becomes interesting, and it now fosters the love for learning. Thank you so much for that, Rhoda. Thank you so much. Okay, so because of time, if he wants us to just go straight to that final question, right? Adam, I see your hand, so we'll take your question after that. Let's just touch that final question. Okay, so the final question is, from your experience having engaged with trained and mentored teachers across the country, what's the most important thing you believe that the Nigerian teacher needs to implement to be able to raise and nurture lifelong learners, right? From your experience having engaged with trained and mentored teachers across the country, what's the most important thing you believe the Nigerian teacher needs to implement to be able to raise and nurture lifelong learners? But no, my questions are very long, but there's always a message inside. Yes, if you please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Okay. So I would answer this using my experience. So I started Tech Savvy Teacher International from one question. So a friend of mine asked a question. She said, I was a classroom teacher, and she said, if something happens to you today or you get sick, how can you still teach effectively as a teacher? What will happen to your students? And I began to think about this, you know. I'm like, wow, how can I just be thinking about just the classroom alone in this time and season? How can this digital age, how can I leverage this, this digital age to be omnipresent? How can I, transfer teaching and learning beyond the four walls of the classroom? And that's where I started researching and started looking for technology tools I could use to automate my instruction, to digitize my content. So I started creating YouTube videos. I started creating screencast videos, instructional videos, that I could leverage to teach even beyond the four walls of the classroom. So when I was not in the classroom, learning could take place. When I was in the airplane, learning could take place. So as a 21st century teacher, how can you replicate yourself? How can you replicate your content to 10,000 users using your content at the same time and speed? How can you ensure that, self-paced learning becomes the order of the day? These are very critical questions that would help you to break out from the status quo, that would help you to be a globally relevant teacher. Everything you do as a teacher should not revolve just within the four walls or confines of your physical classroom. You should have, a global classroom. Your content should be replicated across continents, across states, across countries. How are you even leveraging WhatsApp, Telegram, Zoom, Facebook communities to replicate your content, to replicate the value that you carry as a teacher? So what would set you free in this digital era is that you are a lifelong learner. You constantly ensure that you are acquiring a tech tool, that you are acquiring a tech skill, that you are learning how to use a new tech tool per time. And that is why lifelong learning is very critical. Now, you cannot be a lifelong learner, or you cannot raise a lifelong learner without being a lifelong learner yourself. So lifelong learning must start with you as a 21st century teacher. That mentality of telling yourself, I would acquire a new skill. It doesn't have to be a tech skill, but it has to be a future-ready skill per time. And when you have that mentality, that is what will set you free and will help you, build and accelerate your career. Becoming a lifelong learner is very critical to your success as a teacher, because there is no tech tool I would tell you today that would be of impact to you without you having that mindset. Without you having that mindset as a lifelong learner. But if you leave this room today with that mindset of a lifelong learner, nothing would limit you.
You can stop you.
Nothing
basically.
would limit you. So that's all I have to say. Constantly use artificial intelligence to increase your scope of knowledge. A lot of people know about ChatGPT. What is ChatGPT helping you to acquire? But of course, the use of ChatGPT is crucial. A lot of teachers are using ChatGPT to just regurgitate knowledge, but use ChatGPT to create new paradigms, to solve real world problems. Apply ChatGPT to your context. Why am I using ChatGPT? Because artificial intelligence, is everywhere right now. So it's important to leverage technology intentionally and to use it with the right mentality, with the right purpose. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ife. I want to say a big thank you to you. Ife is actually in her children's PTA meeting, but she took out time to join us on this session. You don't know how much we appreciate that, Ife. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. God bless you.
For having me.
And this is just the beginning. Like I didn't know how big this thing would be, or how powerful it would be. But I really appreciate it, Ife. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, guys. Okay, so Rhoda, let's hear from you briefly, then take Adam's question, then we go into the breakout sessions.
The two things I would like to say, if you had mentioned one is technology, you have to implement technology.
Yes.
Drop mic. Forget it. You do it. You do it, even if it's in the smallest. Start from what you can, not what is, what you can. But make sure that technology is optimized in your classroom. The second one, and which is the most important one for implementation, is go and learn everything about social-emotional learning. The moment you are implementing social-emotional learning, your classroom will be transformed. Just Google social-emotional learning, and you will see that there are 5 competencies attached to social-emotional learning. And those 5 competencies are life-changing competencies for your relationship, for your students, for your work ethic, for your business, for anything. In fact, the big 5 companies in the world, Google, Amazon, all of them, are now holding on to social-emotional skills as a critical part of the team that they want to have. And they're doing all kinds of practices and policies and strategies to grow those kinds of social-emotional learning skills within their workspace. So it's the ultimate skill to have. So, and now today we're saying we want to begin to implement them in every time we engage with each other in the business of learning and teaching. So social-emotional learning has 5 key competencies you want to go and learn all those strategies involved in them. Implement them. It has self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationships, responsible decision-making. These are the 5 key competencies of it. Implement it and then come back to Nigerians and say whether, and ask and see whether things didn't change for you.
Yes. All right, guys. Thank you so much for that, Rhoda. Thank you so much. Social emotional learning. Embrace technology. Don't be scared of technology. Don't let technology bring out the ignorance in you. Try new things, right? So thank you so much for that, Rhoda. Adam, Umar, Jutse, your question, real quick. Meanwhile, there's a poll of the events showing on your screen. Just please give us your feedback on what you think about the event. Adam, can you hear me? Please go ahead. Adam, can you hear
hello,
me?
can everyone hear me?
Clearly.
Yes, I can hear you. Can everyone hear me here?
Yes, we can. Yes.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon. Go, Adam.
Adam, go ahead with your question. Go ahead. Your hand is up.
Okay, it's all right. I have a little bit of question, but I would like to sincerely appreciate the organizers for having all this on board. As a lifelong learning individual and also as a professional teacher, I consider this as an absolute opportunity, as absolute honor to be part of this event. And Ms. Rhoda emphasized on she is an experienced, she has experience in curriculum development, and I think maybe you made mention of some certain issue that we're facing in Nigeria, most especially in the northern Nigeria. Yes, exactly, about the issue of how we are left far behind regarding this kind of edutech or something like that, utilizing all these artificial intelligence applications into learning, and yet we are left far behind. But yet we are trying to copy, and considering the issue of curriculum, we think that there are imbalance in curriculum, and there are certain things based on experience we may see there are imbalance between how the curriculum developers are into it, because we have direct contact with the students from the local level or from the grassroots, and yet there are things that they can't comprehend unless when we break things down and mash together in order to give us what we want at the top. Though that's a topic on its own. I don't want to take too much of time based on what you just said. But the simple question I would like to ask is to achieve lifelong learning, one must develop the habit of reading and avoid procrastination and keeping distraction aside, most especially in the present world we are living, the 21st century. So the question is, how can one attain child-friendly education that boosts student learning performance toward resilience in reading? How? Because without building that skill of reading, you cannot be able to become lifelong learning individual without any lying to ourselves, honestly. Okay, that was just a question. I don't know whether I'm clear. Sorry, thank you.
Super clear. Super clear. Adam, just want to say thank you for your questions and for your thoughts and your reflections. I particularly like when you mentioned the imbalance in the curriculum, and I agree with you, which is why I say it all the time. We don't have a curriculum. People don't like, all of my bosses up there in charge of all our institutions, they don't like me saying it, but I say it. And I beat my chest and I say it all the time. And that's why you hear Adam say imbalance, because there is a gap. In fact, a huge gap. And so, and Adam trying to, really talk about the integration, trying to break this curriculum down to the level of the children. Because the truth is that if we're not talking about learning gains here, we're talking about competencies. What are the competencies that become the standard upon which every child in different parts of our country can engage with learning? So Adam is asking a very important question. How do we develop this thing? And for me, if I think about my work in grassroots education, the very first level is how do we make the children to read first? That's the first thing. What is the skill of reading? Do they have it? If they don't have it, we cannot make them to read, right? So all these foundational literacies, foundational phonemic awareness, all of those need to happen. And guess what? They need to happen with mother tongue integration. I keep saying it. That is the only way. Every time we say that children, who says that we can learn to read in only English? The children, from research and what we know of neuroscience, our children within early childhood education and primary education can learn 4 languages at once. That is the reason why we need to rethink how we are following that strategy. So teaching them to read in their local language is the first entry. That's the first entry. Teaching them to read in their local language so it makes sense to them. For example, in Yoruba, you say for eja, but in English it's fish and it's right? Fish. But in Yoruba is eja, and then it follows a different sound, but the sound is still there. So for eja, for egg, for this, and you mix it up, because what it does with them, because it brings learning home and makes it really, really resonate with them. And so when they're reading it and reading in the language of their immediate environment, in the language that's widely spoken around them, this is the first level. And that's one of the first things that we need to change. We need to do the 2 of them at the same time. Mother tongue integration in teaching foundational literacy skills is very, very important. At a national level, at a state level, at a local government level, at a small community, school community level. All of this needs to happen. That is when you start to breed that love, because children see the text and they see themselves in the text. The other one is that they have to lack the fun. You have to bring fun into it, and you have to use all the tools in the immediate environment to ensure that that they're seeing it. So when you talk about when inside the materials that they use, you bring all of those things that are important to them up onto the secondary school level. Because to be honest, what is photosynthesis? To be honest, what is kinetic energy? How do you break these concepts to make our students see it as activities that are happening right there in their classrooms? So some of that, if learning is not made to live and breathe with the way you see your immediate environment, it is hard for people to want to learn. It kills the love of learning. It's very, very hard. So in those areas, that's what we do. We make it sure that the foundational literacies required for people to learn is there. A lot of our children are struggling with reading, and that's why they don't want to read. Period. They're struggling with it. That's number one.
Breaking transmission.
Sorry.
Yeah.
In many of our schools across the country, we don't have books. Let's just still be truthful. Many of you might have not been to different parts Arinze and I have been to, like Adam has been in. We don't have the resources. We don't have the books. We don't have the material. Oh, you need to see them. Is that where you want people to read? Is that the place you want people to read? When we're serious, we will solve our problems.
Yes.
Right? When we're serious, we'll solve it. And that's the way. So if in the northern part of Nigeria, we need to provide them with the tools. We need to use mother tongue integration. And we need to go back to the foundational literacies to teach them again. And then build that love. Use the language, everything that is in their immediate environment to bring home the learning. And that's how to build. My children love to read. Because and then bring different types. Comics is reading. A cookbook is reading. Flyers is reading.
Bedtime stories, sir. Bedtime stories.
Does it have to be Chinatebes? While that is good, but it can be many things that make children want to learn. A comic is fine. So yeah, there's so much to say about it, but
well, thank you so much,
Adam. I don't know if I responded to your question, Adam.
Okay. No, yeah. Thank you so much.
Foundational literacies. Taking it back.
How I wish we have a platform that gathers all these professionals, to be, exchanging ideas on how to boost some certain things.
Don't worry, we're working on something. This is just the beginning. Me, I've been taking notes. I've been taking notes. Okay. All right, nice one. Okay, Khadija, let's go into the networking session. When we come out, you drop your question. Okay, just hang in there. Let's network. Let's get to know ourselves one-on-one. So, okay, let's do that. You find yourself in a room, interact. Interact. You find yourself in a room, interact. Hey, Benita, how far now? Benita, I've been calling you since on the Michael. You haven't responded. Benita, are you there? Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome back. People are coming back from their different networking sessions now. Yeah. Good. Nice one. Rhoda, your mic is
It's
muted.
good I wasn't with Arizi. I know I read too much.
He was in a room. I met him. I met them in one room. They were already interacting. Him and Ayodele and Chidima. So that's the beauty of it.
I met different people, Rhoda.
Yeah. Good. So what I did was I did it random. I did it random rooms. Instead of, there's a way you can do that. People can choose which room they want to go into. But I just did random.
Hello,
rooms.
good afternoon. Sorry, I wasn't hearing anything and I was unable to click on the buttons.
Are you serious? I called you now. I came back to the main place. I was asking you to join a room.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
So sorry.
No wala, Benita, but your interactions were noted. I saw your interactions on the chats and things. Benita is one of our senior teachers. When I talk about senior teacher,
Benita for president.
Top notch, yo. All right, guys. So Dada, thank you for coming as well. I see you, Dada. I see Florence. I see Tobiloba, Adam, Chidima, fantastic. Amara, I don't think we've met, but I know that name sounds familiar. I see Peace. I want to say a big thank you, guys, to everybody who made it for this event, right? These forums are very important for us to engage, for us to rub minds, for us to go dive deeper into education, which is our forte, and for us to communicate the value and learn. I have learned a lot today. Like, I always take notes, and for me to have taken notes on this course, this session is something that I don't take for granted at all, right? So I want to say thank you on behalf of the team at Nigenius. Rhoda, thank you very much. This is just the beginning. When we are ready to walk, when we're ready to walk, I won't hesitate. I'll call you. We sit down, conference room. But I say, let's start this engagement now. Let's bring you on board. Let's talk. Let's get to know, what you're made of, right? So this is what we do. We're all about value. Nigerians, our work is just improve the quality and the delivery of education for African students. That's our work. That's our mission. We do it in different ways. Teaching resources for teachers, providing teachers with ways to make extra income, and coding and robotics tutoring. And we still have a lot to do. We're building at different stages, and there's a time we will now be building for impact, which is in terms of government, low-income schools, and public schools. So it's a journey. It's a journey, right? So we continue and we move. Yeah. So we got good starts on the event. 82% said it was extremely insightful, while another 27% said it was insightful. We didn't get any okay, and we didn't get any fairly insightful. So that's fantastic. We hope to do it another time and also have a lot more people join as well. All right, guys, thank you so much. All right, guys, till next time, let's turn on our cameras and let's do a selfie. Everybody turn on, let's do a picture. Let's do a picture. If you can turn on your cameras, let's do a screenshot. Let's do a screenshot for the event. Let's do a screenshot for the event. And I can see you're making your hair. All right. Okay, guys. 1, 2, 3, go. Good. Done. You see the screenshot on social media. All right, guys. Thank you so much and have a great day. Bye-bye for now.
Morning. Afternoon.
Bye, guys. Let's stay in touch. Come on, well done. I can see you. Bye.
Thank you, sir. Bye, sir.